Hey everyone, today I'm going to tell you a story about how I dove into monocolor and found one of the most interesting commanders for myself. One that even other players find fun and say, go ahead, pick him. It's a blast to play against him. Zurzoth, Chaos Rider, is right here in front of you, friends. This is a 2/3 legendary creature from Jumpstart. Whenever an opponent draws their first card each turn, if it's not their turn, they create a red devil token that has an ability that triggers when this creature dies. When it dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. Whenever one or more devils under our control attack a player, I and those players each draw a card and then discard a card at random. We can generate little devils. We can go through our deck and gain some advantage on the board. But what can these little devils actually do, and how do they win? That was always the mystery. One day, I ran into an American player online who was playing Zurzoth and trying to create chaos just for the sake of chaos. Most of the players at the table didn't really like it, and when he pulled ahead a little, the 3 of us teamed up to take him down. And that was a sad story. And there's a second part to Zurzoth's backstory, Abaddon's deck. I had a Warhammer 40,000 precon where Abaddon was the leader, and I decided to expand on the Cascade theme and build a deck around Abaddon. The deck turned out to be interesting for me, but my opponents found it boring to play against, because as soon as my turn started, I never passed. I managed to put together a solitaire of cards where I kept getting mana resources, cards, more mana, more cards, and just went through my whole deck. While testing this deck, I once found myself in a situation where I played literally every spell in my deck over 2 turns, and only had a few lands left in the deck. By that point, my opponents had long since been dead, but I was curious to see when it would finally end. Luckily, I was doing this without any people around. Since there were no cards in the precon with no mana cost that you could cast off Cascade without paying their mana cost or having to put them into suspend, I tried to use everything, and all of them turned out to be incredibly effective. But one of these spells determined how I want to build Zurzot. That spell is Glimpse of Tomorrow. If you've never seen it before, let me introduce you to it a bit closer now. Glimpse of Tomorrow has no mana cost, but we can cast it off Cascade. Shuffle all permanents you own into your library. Then reveal the same number of cards from the top of your library. All non-aura permanents revealed this way enter the battlefield. Then do the same for auras. We take absolutely all the tokens from our commander, all lands, all permanents on the board, and shuffle them all in. Each token is counted as a separate card. And accordingly, when we start revealing cards from the top of the deck, we hit actual cards. Only instants and sorceries go to the bottom of the library, and by the time this is played, there aren't that many instants and sorceries left in our deck. So, I came to the conclusion that at the moment when I have about 20 or more permanents on the battlefield, if I cast this spell and it resolves, I'll win the game, because whatever comes out of my deck onto the battlefield will end the game on ETB. There was Perforos, there was damage tripling, there was massive token generation of all kinds. For every non-creature cast, I was making sharks. I was making artifact soldiers. I was making every possible token during my combo turn. And Glimpse of Tomorrow was winning me the game. And this card led me to realize that the effect I found on another card was exactly how I wanted to win with that effect. That's the decision I made for myself. But preferably not as long and unpleasant for my opponents as it turned out with Abaddon. Eventually, I took apart Abaddon and moved the gameplay over to Zurzot. In my opinion, Zurzoth was an excellent commander who generates tokens on his own, goes through the deck, and being in red, You can even recur spells in some relatively cheap way if needed. That could be Mizzix's Mastery, or other ways to recur instants and sorceries. Just give them flashback, for example. Besides that spell, there was another one, Over the Top. But we'll get to that in a bit. I should mention that both of these spells work not only for you. While Glimpse of Tomorrow says that only you do it, Over the Top and Warp Vault say that both you and your opponents will do it. So you end up playing a game with your opponents to see who has better permanents in their deck. Of course, the most profitable time to cast Over the Top and Warp Vault is when you have more permanents on the battlefield. But there might be a critical situation where you're willing to take the risk. And I've had situations, rare, but they did happen, where, when these spells resolved, I wasn't the one who won, but my opponent did, because a combo could come together. And that makes things a bit more fun for your opponents too. So let's get acquainted with Warp Vault. The effect is the same as Glimpse of Tomorrow, but this one affects absolutely all players, and each player shuffles all permanents they own. So if your board suddenly gets stolen, no worries. Warp Vault will shuffle your permanents back to you, and then you put all artifacts, creatures, lands, and enchantments onto the battlefield, and everything else goes to the bottom of your library. Over the Top is a little bit cheaper, by 1. And it works a bit differently. Each player reveals cards from the top of their library equal to non-land permanents they control. Important point, put permanents onto the battlefield, rest to graveyard. So, if you hit an instant or sorcery, it will go to the graveyard. And here, what matters is not the owner, but the controller. These are the two main win conditions of this deck. Besides that, there are two more terrifying spells in this deck. One I found right away, and the other a bit later. The terrifying spell is Scramble Verse. For each non-land permanent, choose a player at random. That player gains control of each permanent chosen this way. Untap those permanents. This is a defensive spell. At the moment when my board is completely wiped, or if someone casts a ruinous ultimatum that destroys all permanents and leaves the board to just one player, this spell lets you restore stability and shuffle everything on the battlefield except for lands. Scrambleverse is a good defensive spell, especially when you're left one-on-one with an opponent who just took out your other two opponents. It gives everyone a fighting chance. And the second scary spell, which is a win condition on its own but can also be combined with Over the Top, is Insurrection. How do Insurrection and Over the Top work together? If we ever find ourselves in a situation where we have a ton of mana and both of these spells in hand, we can cast Insurrection first to take control of all creatures, and then play Over the Top, revealing cards based on the number of non-land permanents we control. So we can reveal a huge number of cards, definitely more than our opponents. By the way, Over the Top doesn't count lands, but Warp Vault does count lands, and it shuffles lands as well. So we have 3 win conditions and 1 defensive spell. Zurzoth, who generates us little devils, but none of these actually kill opponents. They're just sources of damage. Let's start with something simple, Goblin Bombard. Our little devils deal damage to any target when they die. So with Goblin Bombard, when you sacrifice a devil, it deals 1 damage itself, and then we get another damage from the devil. This gives us targeted removal for creatures, players, planeswalkers, and it's one of our sources of damage. Next, since we're a mono-red deck, we can use Valakut. If we play our 6th mountain, Valakut starts firing. When Warp Vault resolves, it's possible that Valakut and a bunch of other mountains will come into play. And for each mountain that enters, we'll start dealing 3 damage. But it might not just be 3 damage. It could be 9 or even 27, depending on what else comes in with it. Let's move on. Zurzoth draws cards and discards cards. Plus, there are also cards that make opponents draw extra cards. We can just give them cards, but we need to punish them for that somehow. That's where Razork and Needlehead comes in. And Spiteful Prankster. Our little devils are small, they can die. There are also other creatures on the battlefield that might die accidentally. He'll see them all and deal 1 damage to a target player or planeswalker. Sulfuric Vortex. We really don't want players to be able to gain life. Unfortunately, we can't destroy infinite HP for the opponent. That's why we need to prevent life gain. Plus, 2 damage to each player during upkeep is nice. Vexing Devil. We'll talk about it a bit later. It also deals damage. Or rather, how does it work? When it enters the battlefield, any opponent may choose to take 4 damage. If they do, I'll have to sacrifice this creature. But I have a mini quest with Vexing Devil, and the quest is to create a situation for my opponents where they refuse to take the damage, so Vexing Devil survives. Sin Prodder. This is our card draw, similar to Phyrexian Arena. At the beginning of upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. Any opponent can hit themselves if they put that card into the graveyard. If they don't, then we put that card into our hand. Hellrider. We go on the attack, and attack triggers are pretty good. I tried testing other attack triggers besides Hellrider, but somehow Hellrider was the only one that stuck. He has haste. He is also a devil. He will trigger Zurzot. Force the opponent to draw and subcard the card. We will create a devil. Additionally, whenever a creature you control attacks, Hellrider deals 1 damage to defending player. Muttering Demon. There are few good devils for 1 or 2 mana. This is one of those that can reliably deal damage to opponents during upkeep and on ETB as well. That's why we play it. Next, of course, we play Impact Tremors. In one of our turns, we might get 3 creatures out. That will be 3 damage to all opponents. Wind Roadmaster, he's a little devil. The fact that he also has the Impact Tremors effect, that is, whenever another creature enters, he deals 1 damage to each opponent, is a big plus for him. Here, as other sources of damage, we also have Perforate, and we can play it both in the early game and in the late game, and for Perforate's mana cost, we get the same effect. So we can win on ETB, but it seems like 1 damage isn't much. That's why we have elements that let us deal a bit more damage than just 1. And here we have damage triplers, Fiery Emancipation and CT on Fire. With CT on Fire, since we have a lot of little devils, we can sometimes play it almost for free. For Fiery Emancipation, you'll have to pay the full cost, or you might get Fiery Emancipation from Warp Vault. Let's be honest, paying 8 mana just to have this thing drop onto the board along with Perforate is totally worth it. There's also a damage doubler, which is Sulfim. If a source I control would deal combat damage to an opponent, or a permanent they control, it doubles that damage. Our pings from CT on Fire and Fiery Emancipation turn into 3 damage each. Lightning Bolts. With Fiery Emancipation and CT on Fire, a little devil hits for 9. A little devil with Sulfim deals 6 damage to any target. There's also a pseudo-tripler, Torbrand. If a red source I control would deal damage to an opponent, or a permanent they control, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. It turns the pings from Bombardment, the pings from the little devils, or just the devils attacking into a 3 damage bolt. Yeah, this won't work with Fiery Emancipation, because in Magic there's a rule that whoever is affected by the effect gets to choose the order. So unfortunately, players will most likely choose to triple the damage first, then add 2. If they did it the other way around, or if the rules in Magic were different, there would be a lot more damage. But still, even if you combine Torbrand and Fiery Emancipation, each ping will deal 5 damage, which is a 5-fold increase from the starting value. There's also this door, which, surprisingly, from the Duskmaw Commander Precon, can create devils, 3 on one half, and on the other half, it increases non-combat damage to an opponent by 2. So it's basically a Torbrand effect, but only for non-combat damage, so it's a bit weaker. Torbrand, after all, works for combat damage as well. So, if we have a small number of devils on the board and, say, a Hellrider, then these effects that double, triple, or add 2 to the damage will end up dealing significantly more damage. I also include Mirage Mirror in this category. How does it work? If you have a Mirage Mirror on the board and at least 1 damage tripling enchantment, for just 2 mana you can make Mirage Mirror a copy of Fiery Emancipation or a copy of City on Fire. This way, the effect will be tripled and then tripled again. That will be 9 damage. So, we have our damage dealers. We have a bunch of ways to increase that very damage, because 1 damage is too little, 2 damage is too little, but when it's tripled, doubled and tripled, or multiplied by 9, that's already pretty decent. Now let's take a look at how we ramp here, what kind of ramp we have. Since this is a Devil Tribal, we have 3 City of Traders, and in Mono-Red, Nykthos generally feels pretty good. These lands can produce an increased amount of mana. For 1 mana, we use Curse of Opulence. First of all, it produces tokens that we don't have to sacrifice, and they count towards things like Warp Vault or Over the Top. Second, it's a reason for people to attack someone else instead of me. And third, it's the coolest enchantment in red. What are you even talking about? Soul Ring, Arcane Signet. Next, we have Mind Stone. If needed, we can draw a card with it. Ruby Medallion. Extraplanar Lens. We exile our mountain under it, and our mountains start producing double mana. Well, not just ours, everyone's. Next, a small number of other mana rocks that are quite efficient. We need to get up to 8 mana. 8 mana is the highest mana cost in our deck, and we need to reliably reach those 8 mana, so that maybe we can also have some protection or a counterspell. Throne of Eldraine. Throne of Eldraine serves a dual purpose here. On one hand, we can get 4 mana of our chosen red color, and on the other hand, for 3 mana we can draw 2 cards. That's pretty good. There are a few rituals, like Seething Song, pay 3, get 5. There's also Mana Geyser. Get red mana for each tapped land under your opponent's control. Usually, after a timely Mana Geyser, things start to get really scary. And we also have the Red Refrain, which serves a similar role to Juska's Will. It adds a red mana for each card in the target opponent's hand until end of turn. We don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. And you exile Inspiring Refrain with 3-time counters on it. It can be put into suspend for 2 mana. We also have 2 such mana rocks. We have Cursed Mirror and Moon Silver Key. Cursed Mirror can become a clone, and Moon Silver Key, which can fetch us an extraplanar lens, Scepter of Eternal Glory, Throne of Eldraine, a basic land, Soul Ring, or Arcane Signet. Overall, Moon Silver Key is really good for finding these kinds of utility, high quality, big mana rocks. This is our ramp. We also have some interaction. Here we have Pyroblast. For a while, I used Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast together. But later, after one incident, I unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, actually more fortunately, removed Red Elemental Blast. The deck has a combination of Power Balance and Sensei's Divining Top. And I took out Red Elemental Blast after I revealed it from the top of my library 3 times in a row to 3 different players, and there just wasn't a legal target for it. That is, there wasn't a player with blue. With Pyroblast, at least I could have cast it and gotten rid of it from the top deck, but unfortunately, I can't do that with Red Elemental Blast. Yeah, also, the combination of Power Balance and Sensei's Divining Top in this deck is a way to draw cards. If someone casts a spell for 1, I tap Sensei's Divining Top, put it on top, reveal the top with Power Balance's trigger, and cast it for free. That way, I get 1 extra card in my hand. Tie-Bolt with Trickery, red counter spell, Untimely Malfunction. Most of the time, we'll be redirecting a targeted spell or ability with a single target. It's a wonderful spell, and it even lets you destroy a target artifact. Zurzoth is cheap, so Deflecting Sweat is also used here. Chaos Warp. Burn Down the House can be used either to create 3 devils with haste or to deal 5 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. Blasphemous Act. We might have a lot of little devils, and sometimes we want to kill them all to finish the game, and Blasphemous Act can help us do that. Calamity of Cinders. Calamity of Cinders in this deck can be a one-sided board white thanks to the possibility of Convoke. In a single turn, I can produce up to 6 little devils. How can I do that? I have Zurzoth on the battlefield, and I have 2 more little devils ready to attack. Also, Roaming Throne can enter the battlefield, and it will double the triggers of all the little devils. Accordingly, Zurzoth will create not 1, but 2 little devils for each opponent's first card, for a total of 6. Zurzoth can even go on the attack. If we have 6 little devils here plus Roaming Throne, we can tap all of them and cast Calamity of Cinders for free. That way, we can clear the board one-sidedly. We want to clear the board one-sidedly. We don't want to destroy our own little devils, because they're a valuable resource for Over the Top or World Fire. The more little devils we keep alive, the better it is for us. To keep our little devils alive, we can use Dolmen Gate, which prevents all combat damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures I control. I am not ready to lose my little devils in an attack, but if necessary, I'm willing to make deals with my opponents and block with my devils, who are tapped and always stay on my battlefield. It's rare that people attack me, because Zurzoth leaves tapped devils behind, even if they go on the attack. And these tapped devils are pretty annoying, because they can deal damage in return, maybe finish off an attacking creature, and if there's some effect that doubles or triples damage, or a +2, or a Torbrand effect, then it'll be really hard for them to get through our little devils. And Dolmen Gate will let us make it so that the devils survive. Now I'll tell you about a little trick that can help you play a bit better. We have Mutavault in the deck, which can become a devil because it has all creature types for just 1 mana. And even if Zurzoth is the only thing you have on the battlefield, you can animate Mutavault and attack with it to immediately trigger Zurzoth. There's another interesting trick you can pull off with Devilish Valet. Devilish Valet has Trample and Haste. When another creature enters the battlefield under your control, double its power. How does this work with Roaming Throne? It will say that it has double triggers, and the entry of any creature will have a huge impact on Devilish Valet, because it will get 2 triggers to double its power. But when everything is already declared for attack and Zurzoth creates 3 devils before blockers, or rather, not 3, but 6 little devils with Roaming Throne on the battlefield, Devilish Valet will get 12 double triggers and will be lethal for the opponent. Here's something else fun we can pull off. We can play Devilish Valet. We can make Curse Mirror a copy of Devilish Valet. And on top of all that, with the familiar Mirage Mirror, we can make yet another copy of Devilish Valet. Go on the attack and take out all 3 opponents, just trampling them with the massive hammer of Devilish Valet. What else do we have up our sleeve? Of course, we have card draw in reserve. You can't get anywhere without card draw. We need to draw cards. and we need to create devils not just on our own turn. That's what we want. We have a number of things that work well with our commander. That's Gets Grimoire. If we target each opponent, then each opponent discards a card. That's 3 extra cards for us thanks to Gets Grimoire. Because whenever an opponent discards a card from their hand, I can draw a card. We also have Monument to Endurance. When we discard a card, we choose something that hasn't been chosen yet this turn. We can draw a card, create a treasure token, or make each opponent lose 3 life. But the most important thing here, of course, is to create a treasure token and draw a card. Another way for us to draw cards is connecting the dots. Many people overlook this enchantment, but in this deck it's fantastic. When a creature you control attacks, you exile the top card of your library face down under this enchantment. So if we send 3 attackers, we exile 3 cards under it. Later, at instant speed, we can discard our hand and put all those cards into our hand. This is a way to reload your hand with cards. You can get 8 to 10 cards under it. Later, we can draw them, and if we have the Endurance Monument, it will trigger several more times. It's an extremely effective enchantment that people overlook, and then it lets me reset. Of course, we have dolls, because the little devils are 1/1s and you really want to sacrifice them to shoot something and draw cards. We produce tokens. It could be a treasure token, it could be a gold token, it could be a devil token. That's why Idol of Oblivion will work here. We also have this little devil, another rare devil for 2 mana that does something. He's pretty chunky, he's a 0 out of 3. And when he attacks, I can sacrifice an artifact or discard a card. If I do, I draw a card, and he gets +2/+0 until end of turn. This ability lets us dig for a land or some other card we need. But here, we're not discarding at random. And we want to see Reckless Detective on turn 2. On turn 3, we play Zurzoth and immediately get Zurzoth's trigger. So by turn 4, each opponent can get a devil, and we'll interact with each of them. Next, we have Willow Misfortune, a wheel that will make a devil for us if opponents discard and draw cards. We have Burning Inquiry. Each player draws 3 cards and discards 3 cards at random. We have Winds of Change. We start singing the Scorpion song on turn 1. If we're on the play, we play a mountain, cast Winds of Change, and say that you get a bonus mulligan. Each player shuffles any number of cards from their hand into their library and draws the same number of cards. Yeah, of course, it's really just a funny play. The original play we want to see is this. We cast Zurzot and then one of these cards, so that for 1 mana we create 3 little devils. Next up is Temple Bell. Temple Bell says that each player draws a card when you tap it. If we need to play something like Warped World or Over the Top, we can tap Temple Bell before combat, have everyone draw a card, and Zurzoth will make us 3 little devils. After that, we'll have 3 more permanents to help pull off our win conditions. And it's also a way to make devils on someone else's turn. For example, we can tap Temple Bell during another player's end step, have everyone draw before our turn, and we'll make 2 devils, because 2 players will draw cards not on their own turn. Well, I'll draw 2, but I'm not my own opponent. Zenith Chronicler. When an opponent casts their first multicolored spell, every other player draws a card. It's really hard to dodge that effect. Its power is 3 and its toughness is 1. If it attacks with a damage tripler, that's 9 damage. And sometimes it actually gets through. If needed, you can feed it to Skull Clamp and draw 2 cards. And it can also reliably produce devils during other players' turns. We don't have to do anything. Opponents cast their multicolored commanders and we get 2 devils. Thanks, Zenith Chronicler. 2 more cards, 2 lands. 1 land, Mika Koro, says for 2 mana and a tap, each player draws a card. The other one, Gaia Reach Sanitarium, for 2 mana and a tap, each player draws a card, then discards a card. If we do this during an opponent's turn, Zurzoth will give us extra devils, so we have a pretty decent way to draw cards. Plus, Zurzoth gives us this draw and discard action. Basically, we have this kind of chaos draw in the command zone. But here's the question. If we discard cards, how do we get them back? There are a few answers to that. One of the answers is Wheel of the Sky. It's both a wheel, meaning it's card draw for us, and if our commander is on the battlefield, it gives every instant and sorcery flashback until end of turn. We also have these Fire Devils. A fantastic creature, these awesome, wonderful little devils let me cast the spell at random absolutely for free. But here's the thing. First off, when they enter the battlefield, and in my upkeep, we pick a player at random, and that player lets us cast an instant or sorcery of their choice. My goal is to win the die roll, to hit that 25% chance to target my own graveyard, and then I can cast Over the Top or Insurrection for free. Overall, with this kind of combination, I've won several games. Next, we have Underworld Breach, which we can hit unexpectedly when we cast Over the Top. And if we do hit Underworld Breach while casting Over the Top, and we also hit some mana or mana rocks, then we can repeat the operation and cast Over the Top again, using Underworld Breach's ability in red. We have Mizzix's Mastery, Past in Flames, and Pinnacle Monk, which can also return an instant or sorcery to our hand. For example, Pinnacle Monk can give us the opportunity to replay Mana Gazer. We played Mana Gazer, it went to the graveyard, then for 5 mana we played Pinnacle Monk, got Mana Gazer back, repeated Mana Gazer, generated a large amount of mana, which could, for example, let us cast Insurrection, and then on top of that, Over the Top. We'll have a big turn, during which we'll try to finish the game. So here we have 6 elements that are responsible for recursion. So that's 3 win conditions, 1 protective spell, and 6 recursion elements. There's 1 draw spell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 plus the commander. That's 15 ways to draw a card. Mirage Mirror can't become Guest Grimoire, as it's legendary. Let me check right now. Guest Grimoire, where are you? No, it's not legendary. It can become Guest Grimoire and let you draw even more cards. Mirage Mirror can do anything, really. It's simply one of the best cards in the deck. We have a certain amount of ramp. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 elements. There are 5 damage doublers plus Mirage Mirror. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 sources of direct damage, not counting our little devils like these. Funny combos like Devilish Valet, Mutavault, and Rumentrim. 3 board wipes. Targeted removal. Protection, 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 protection. The power balance combo and the draw engines, and Dolmen Gate as a card for the commander. As you can see, there aren't that many specific cards just for Zurzoth, and this means that if he keeps getting killed, you can still keep playing your game and finding success even without him on the board. And besides that, we have lands. We've got Urza's Saga here. With Urza's Saga, we can fetch Sensei's Top, Soul Ring, or Skull Clamp. We have Urza's Cave, which can help us find either Urza's Saga or Valakut. And then there's a set of completely different mountains, whose sheer variety is sure to annoy your opponents. Now I'll show you which hands I would keep and how I would play this deck. But let's see what the deck gives us this time. We'll definitely need dice, because at the very least, we have to randomize which card we're going to discard. So what do we have in our hand? Zenith Chronicler, Mountain, Insurrection, Agadim's Instigator, Mountain, Burn Injury. Overall, this is pretty decent idea. Look, we have 2 lands and Burn Injury, so that gives us a chance to dig a little deeper. We have damage in the form of Agadim's Instigator and Zenith Chronicler. It wouldn't be bad to discard Insurrection. Most likely, Parley Emancipation will be a pretty dead card here if we don't hit our mana, but we could try keeping it and see what happens. In any case, if we don't hit a mountain right now, we can play Burn Injury immediately, or play Burn Injury next turn if we still don't get there. But in the worst case, on turn 2 we can play Zenith Chronicler. Maybe during the round, our opponents will play a multicolor card. We'll draw another card. But overall, things are looking pretty good so far. Let's go. What's that? That's Spiteful Prankster. First turn will be a mountain. Second turn, a land. Wonderful. So on turn 2, we can easily play not even Zenith Chronicler, though we could play it if we want. We can play Agitator and as a sort of impact Tremors effect. On turn 3, we'll draw a card. Another mountain. On turn 3, we'll play Spiteful Prankster. I'm doing this on purpose. It's better to play these little devils than a commander. If we play the commander, then we'll immediately play Blazing Ingery on turn 4. That way, we can make several devils at once, deal a lot of damage, and together with Spiteful Prankster, we'll be ready to keep this story going. On turn 4, Mirror of the Mirages is our land for 3 mana, and for 1 mana, Blazing Ingery. And so by turn 4, we've fully set up. We'll draw 3 cards and then randomly discard 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. 3 lands. Let's shuffle them and use a die to determine which of these cards will go to the graveyard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Up to 14. That's 13. It's this card. 13 again doesn't work. 20 doesn't work. That's 9. So 7, 8, 9 without Fairy Emancipation, and 12 without Zenith Chronicler. These 3 cards go to the graveyard. We can only recur them with Underworld Breach and Breach if we draw into it. Right now, things aren't bad. Look, we can get to Insurrection if we play Urza's Saga next turn, and it will slowly make us a Soul Ring. That way, we'll definitely get there. So by turn 4, we've made 3 devils, because we forced 3 opponents to draw a card and discard. Plus, we have the Gaia Reach Sanitarium here, which can also make an opponent do that. Next turn, we'll draw a card. We have Connecting the Dots. Very nice. Connecting the Dots will let us draw more cards. So if we really want to, we can send 6 creatures to attack right now. We'll put 6 cards here, and that'll be a pretty good boost for us. I think I'll play Urza's Saga as my land for the turn, and then, using the mountain and Urza's Saga, I'll cast Connecting the Dots. We have just enough mana to activate the Garrus Strip Healer, and if needed, we'll also have mana to activate Connecting the Dots. In case there's an attack on Connecting the Dots, most likely I'll attack with 4. If there's an open face, then I can also send Zurzoth and the Aggravated Instigator. Let's imagine we'll attack with 4 devils. 4 cards. You can distribute triggers at the start. Zurzoth first, then Connecting the Dots if you want, or the other way around. We'll trigger Zurzoth. We hit Burn Down the House. If everything's going well, we make the Little Devils. If things are going badly, then we say we're going to blow things up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Second card, no mountain. So far, so good. Let's imagine a fantastic scenario where our connecting the dots is attacking. And then I want to discard this hand and look at those cards, sacrificing connecting the dots for the 2 mana here. City on Fire, Sulfuric Vortex, and Idol of Oblivion. We've got card draw, we've got triple damage, we've got Vortex. If we really want to, and if we untap a land on turn 6, we've hit the refrain. So, during the attack, we made 3 more little devils, and maybe some of them died. Let's say 2 of them were killed, and we still have 3 little devils left. So, in total, we have 4 little devils, Zurzoth, and Spiteful Prankster. If we're in this situation, then we have 4, 5, 6, 7 creatures. We can play City on Fire almost for free. But I think our plan will be this. We'll play a mountain for 2 mana, and then play Idol of Oblivion. Although at first, we'll probably say Refrain, get some amount of mana for 2 mana, and play Idol of Oblivion. After that, we'll spend some amount of mana on City on Fire and Vortex. If Refrain gives us 5 mana, then we'll spend all that mana on Idol of Oblivion and Vortex. And we'll spent with 3 counters. And we still have 1, 2. Actually, not quite. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll have 1 mana left. I'm even ready to be left without a hand right now if we get City on Fire down. Will we have enough mana? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, ideally, of course, we'd play Vortex. But Vortex will hit me too. If we don't play Vortex, we definitely need to play Idol of Oblivion. If we don't play Vortex, we could be left with 3 untapped devils that will go on the attack. By the way, that's an option. In that case, we'll have 3 devils that will attack, and 1 will be tapped along with the rest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's say we'll only need 3 mana. So, we didn't play Vortex. We played City on Fire and got our damage tripled. And we declared attackers. We'll have a drop. Calamity of Cinders. Calamity of Cinders is another mass removal. Even odd. Without Calamity of Cinders. This stays in our hand. We'll create a few little devils, like 3 of them, and we'll be able to tap Idol of Oblivion to draw a card. We hit the wheel. So if we need to reset our hand, no problem. The deck gives you a wheel. And now, since my Urza's saga is about to reach its final chapter, I'll fetch a Soul Ring. As you can see, we're following our game plan smoothly. Let's look at another hand. Alright, let's check the first 7. Reckless Detective is good, Perforos is good, Urza's Saga is good. Can I get 1 more land, please? At least 1 red land. Badly. If there was at least 1 red land, we would boldly go on the attack. Because we have a first drop, we have a second drop on the second turn. If anything, we could say Inspiring Refrain and even find a Soul Ring or, if necessary. But there was no second red land. By the way, here she is on the top deck. That means the deck can be trusted. But let's go. Let's look at the next 7. Let's shuffle. Second 7. City on Fire, Moon Silver Key. Basically that's a delayed ramp, a gate, a land, and a land. Well, overall, not bad. I mean, we can get to something, but I don't really like the 4 drops here. It's quite a risky hand that we could get stuck with. Yeah, on turn 2 we can play the Moon Silver Key. On turn 3, if we don't hit a land, we can fetch a basic land, play it, but it doesn't look all that great. Yeah, we could go with the Soul Ring. Play Soul Ring on turn 2, then on the TH. On the 4th turn, yeah. On the 4th turn we can make some devils. On the 5th turn call Zurzoth and start producing devils. But it seems kind of slow. Well, let's give it a try. So if this isn't a land, then it's deflecting Swat. Mountain, Torbran, Moon Silver Key, and another mountain. Alright. So in this way, we've solved our problems a bit. A bit thanks to the fact that for 1 mana, we'll crack the Moon Silver Key, find the Soul Ring, and play that Soul Ring. I love this red deck. Seriously. For a penny, Soul Ring, and for 3, Zurzoth. So Zurzoth came out on turn 3 for us. Next turn, we can basically play the Hellrider, or we can play Torbran. But maybe we shouldn't scare our opponents too much just yet. Yeah, it's a bit too early to start scaring them. Mind Stone, we didn't find a land, but that's okay. That's a reason to play Mind Stone. And I think it's also a reason to play Spike Corridor and make 3 little devils. Spike Corridor. Let's make 3 little devils. Let them be there. Let's move to combat. We can only attack with Zurzoth. Draw a card. We needed a land, please. From the top deck, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4. Third one, minus the Hellrider. And did we play a land this turn? Bam! Well, listen, it looks like we're in great shape. Another little devil was created, so now we'll have 4 little devils. And here we are on turn 4. By the end of turn 4, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana resources. We have 5 little devils. We have the option to activate Torch a Pit next turn if we get a land, and play Torbran. And that's going to hurt a lot. That's really going to hurt. Maybe we'll even add City on Fire to all this. Well, let's check it out. Here's turn 5. What will the deck give us on turn 5? A mountain. It gives us a mountain. That's exactly what we need, actually. What about Torbran? I really want to play Torbran. For Torbran, we need 1, 2, 3, and 1 more. The Spike Corridor is still open on. Oh. It's open somewhere on this side. We say, Torbran. We scare our opponents a little, because, oh god, now the little devils hit. And blocking them suddenly gets a lot harder. We have 1, 5, 6, 7, 8. Overall, we might not even need to attack this turn. No, actually, we can even attack this turn. Because look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 2 little devils tap. We can even launch a coordinated attack with 2 formidable devils, if the situation demands it. City on Fire. Bam! On turn 5, we have City on Fire, we have Torbran, and now we're really dangerous. Because the little devils now hit for 3 plus 2, that's 5. And if they die, they also deal 5 damage to any target. So, the third setup. Let's see what the deck gives us. Act, Signet, Vortex, Inspiring Refrain, and 1 land. If there were 2 lands, we could keep it. So, I'd be happy to see a land here instead of Act, and everything would be fine. But there it is on the top deck, Warfold. We shuffle in 24 permanents. Tokens count 2, and here's how it works. We shuffle all that in and reveal the top 24 cards from our library. We're simulating Warfold. Where could we end up? Obviously, we've got some cards in hand. Sometimes it happens that we end up in a less favorable position. But believe me, if your opponents have, say, 5 or 10 permanents less than you, it's always worth pulling off this trick. Because your deck is built for this kind of trickery, and you're mentally prepared for it. Your opponents aren't ready for this level of chaos. So, most likely, some people end up in a situation, especially those whose decks are built for storming and rely on instants and sorceries, where they can't do anything, because all they get is a bunch of lands. They have no permanents, just instants and sorceries. So, that's 10 cards. 15, 20, 24. 24 cards. Let's take a look over the top to the bottom of the library land world fork. It should be in the graveyard. Calamity, we hit it, right? Land, we hit instants and sorceries, good. Breach, which is important. We can even repeat it if we really want to. Extraplanar lens. So, look at what we've got. Crucible Mirror is just going to be a dud. The lens will want to exile something under it. That'll go to the bottom of the library. Plus, we've gained access to Underworld Breach. Power Balance, Monument to Endurance, and Enchantment. We've got 3 creatures. 3 for mana. We'll float 1 mana in response to the lens trigger and exile something under it. So, I've got 1 mana in my pool. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 mana. We've got 12 mana right now. And we've got damage tripling plus Torbrand. Unfortunately, there are no ETDs. But for the Breach, the Underworld, considering what we discarded there, and that we still have some cards left in hand, we could even call it a Wheel of Jeskai. Let's actually call it a Wheel of Jeskai. For that, we'll need 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll discard our hand. By the way, we can recast the commander for 3, 4, 5, and in 2 modes, call it a Wheel of Jeskai. We'll discard our hand and draw 5 cards. For discarding our hand, Monument to Endurance will give us some benefits. And of course, we'll need to exile 3 cards for all of this. Pink Monk, Mizzix's Mastery. At this point, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana left, maybe 6, and we can try to use Mizzix's Mastery to repeat the same Wheel of Jeskai, or play Pink Monk and get back Wheel of Jeskai for some important negotiations. Or Pink Monk will get us Winds of Change back. So basically, from here we have a choice of where to go next. By the way, thanks to Underworld Breach, we could play VD Roadmaster, play him, then play the Commander, and then play Vexilin Devil. Actually, that would deal quite a lot of damage. We would have played VD Roadmaster, Zurzoth, and Vexilin Devil. Since the damage is tripled, Vexilin Devil would ask to deal not 4 damage, but 12 plus 2, 14 damage. He would even survive that. That could be a world fork, where you'll still have to figure out how to win. That's why it's interesting. That's all I have for today. This was Uncle Zurzoth, who emerged from the womb of Abaddon. Thanks to Glimpses of Tomorrow, we arrived in Warpole. That's the kind of combination it is. The desire to play with Cascade led to learning how to control chaos in a way that's also fun for your opponents. This was Sergey with you. Thank you for your attention. See you next time. Don't forget to give a thumbs up or down, whichever you prefer. Bye.